This tutorial is all about two special kinds of paint, thermochromic paints and phosphorescent paints. This picture here shows a very clever use of a phosphorescent paint. This bicycle frame has been painted in a phosphorescent paint to allow it to be glow in the dark, and that makes it a much safer bicycle. First, however, we're going to concentrate on thermochromic paints, and these are pigments that change colour when they're heated or cooled and can be very useful to people. This young man is pulling a face because his beer is too warm. Perhaps he should have bought his beer in a special can like this one. This has a label with phosphorescent paint, and when the lion turns from white to blue on the label, he knows that the beer is cold enough to drink. It's sometimes difficult to judge the temperature of the bath for the baby. Make sure it's not too hot. This solves the problem. It's a floating dolphin bath temperature indicator with liquid crystals on the side which change colour at particular temperatures. You may have seen a similar kind of simple thermometer on, for example, a tropical fish tank. If you're bottle feeding your baby, you've got to make sure that the milk is not too hot for baby. One solution is to use a bottle such as this one, which has a thermochromic design. This changes one colour when the temperature is right for baby, but if the temperature is too hot, the paint changes to another colour and design, and it shows that it's unsafe for the baby. We've all seen ill, poorly, cranky children. It's difficult to get a thermometer underneath their tongue, I guess. So, one way of getting around the problem is to use a forehead thermometer, which uses liquid crystals which change colour at particular temperatures. These are all examples of thermochromic pigments. You may think this isn't a problem, burning your hand on a hot kettle. However, some adults with learning difficulties wish to be as independent as possible, but a colour-changing kettle such as this one can remind them when the kettle is hot and when it's cold. You may have seen thermochromic pigments used on cups without realising it. Each of these change their design, some quite cleverly, at particular temperatures. So when a hot drink goes into the cup, the thermochromic pigment changes, for example, in this one on the right, from a black to a colourless, revealing a design, as again on this one at the bottom, which is hidden underneath. So thermochromic pigments are pigments which change colour at different temperatures and can often tell you whether something is hot or cold. They're also used in those mood rings that you might get in a Christmas cracker. You might think it's showing you're passionate, but in fact it's just measuring your body temperature and changing colour accordingly. Another kind of special pigment in paint is phosphorescent pigment, and this can glow in the dark. These phosphorescent signs have been painted with a special phosphorescent pigment that glows in the dark. They'd never replace the emergency illuminated signs at exits, but they would supplement them. For example, in corridors which are normally bright, but if the lights went off in an emergency, they would still glow and show the way. Phosphorescent pigments work because they absorb energy in the daytime. They then store it within the pigment and release it at night. These phosphorescent paints don't release energy all night, only for a few hours. You may remember having these stars on your bedroom ceiling or walls to soothe you at night when you were younger. This frisbee has a phosphorescent pigment, which means it can be used at dusk or at night, and this dog ball has phosphorescent paint within it which allows you to use it in the evening with the dog. So in summary, they work because they absorb and store energy during the day when it's light, and then they can release it as light over a period of time. This question is about paints. Write about some of the reasons why we use paint. Well, we might use paint to make something attractive. Or to protect it. Say, for example, from corrosion. Some paints glow in the dark. Some paints change colour when heated. Look at the list. Complete these sentences. Use words from the list. Paints that glow in the dark are phosphorescent. Paints that change colour when they're heated are thermochromic. Most paints contain a solvent. What does the solvent do? It thins the paint, making it easy to spread. And those there are the allowable answers. Please look back on the questions to check that you agree with those answers. This question says some pigments used in paint change colour when they're heated. They're called thermochromic pigments. Write down one use of thermochromic pigments. Well, go for something fairly obvious. Go for example, mood rings. There are lots of other ones which are allowable. For example, warnings on hot cups or electric kettles, baby baths, those battery testers you have on Duracell batteries work by thermochromic pigments. I remember when I was younger, t-shirts that change colour, don't see so many of those these days. Novelty mugs, all sorts of different choices that you could make here.